So we are inviting you today to join us in celebrating the power of our community to organise.
And now that the council has made a commitment that the library will remain a public asset and a library, this is a living testimony to the truth that collectively we can and do make a huge difference.
Come and join the Friends of North Kensington Library to celebrate a new phase in this historic building's life.
As one of the first public-built libraries, this library has always represented the energy and commitment of communities, organising to secure their future through self-education.
However, in recent years, the commitment of councils to this principle has been weakened by successive governments.
We all know it took the awful events of Grenfell Tower to put an end to plans that would have handed our library over to private interests.
But our diverse community here in North Kensington has a long and proud history
of standing up and resisting the onslaught of developers.
When our friends of the library got together, the whole case looked absolutely hopeless.
And it continued to look hopeless for much of the campaign.
Still, we persisted.
Through the most difficult moments, when losing the library to private interests seemed like a fait accompli, the Friends of North Kensington Library came together.
We were endlessly supported by the many community groups and organisations that make up the network of self-supporting and community-led groups that have been so important to securing the future of public space in this area.
Even when they are in ways we cannot predict, could not hope for, or aren't able to perceive.
Greetings, people. Welcome to what is the fourth of 7 days of our library saves put on by the Friends of North Kensington Library. Today, we have an amazing panel, an amazing host, and we are talking about our 23 acres, Westway Trust and beyond. But before we start the event, we would like to remind people why we are here, and we have a short film prepared for you. So please share in watching it with us. I'd like to hand over now to our host, Toby Lauren Belson.
It's great to be here in the virtual library here in Ladbroke Grove for the fourth of our 7 talks, our discussions all around our spaces. And this evening, we're going to be talking about the 23 acres, the Westway Trust and beyond. I'm very, very happy to be joined this evening by 3 fantastic local panelists. We have with us Didier, who is the executive of the African Sub-Saharan Development Partnership. We have Rasha from the Akava Men's Shed. And we also have Bashir, who is a director of Maxine City CIC. It's great to have you all with us here this evening in the virtual library to jump into this discussion all about the 23 acres. And of course, the 3 of you have huge experience. I'm very, very blessed. I feel very blessed to particularly have a panel this evening that represents, together with myself, the diaspora, the incredible diaspora of Africa and across the world, which is a classic thing, obviously, for North Kensington to achieve. Whenever we bring our community together, we bring this global to the local. So perhaps that's something we can touch upon during our discussion this evening, just the incredible way that North Kensington brings the world to our doorstep through our people and through our activities. But first, if we could get an introduction from each of you, our panelists this evening, and give us an intro about what you're about and your connection to the 23 acres. Starting with Didier.
I'm Didier Ibwila Kwingekom. It's a long name to say. Just say Didier. It's okay for me. I'm the director of African Sub-Saharan Development Partnership. But at the same time, I lead an organization based under the A40 here, just next to Westway Trust.
We're struggling with his sound a little bit there.
Which is called, can you hear me now?
We can hear him fine, Toby. Are you not hearing him?
No.
Okay. Yes, what I was saying is,
no.
So apart from being the director of ASADEP, which is African Sub-Saharan Development Partnership, I also lead the Congolese community organization that has been set up since 2009 or 10. Yeah, we do many things with young. We do many things with young people and then with elder as well.
Sorry, on it.
Especially supporting them to access services, and then we have been doing a lot of things as well around heritage, which is my passion. But myself, I've been working in North Kensington here in the community for the last, let's say, 12 years. Let's say since 2010. So it's like kind of 11 years now. I've been working different projects, different organizations like with Dalgarno. I used to be a community development worker. I've been working as a community organizer for Migrant Organize, where we are based as a charity as well. So that is really me. And then the rest you can learn from our discussion. How many minutes I've got, Toby?
Thank you very much, Didier. And next up, Rasha, please tell us all about yourself and your connection to the 23 acres.
About myself, that's a long discussion. But yeah, no, so I work for Akava, and I am the program manager for Maxine Men's Shed. and that's under the Westway, and it's number 4 Maxilla Walk. It used to be the old nursery. So a little bit about the shed. So for those of you who don't know, the shed movement started in Australia actually in 2013. And initially it was to tackle social isolation and loneliness with men who were approaching retirement or retired. And since then it's kind of gone global. There's hundreds of sheds. There's loads in the UK. They all have very different models. For Maxilla Men's Shed, so we're funded by the NHS, and there was a gap basically where they felt that the men in our community weren't engaging as much. So it was actually a fairly new project. I started in 2019. It was a blank canvas. We did the fit out, we built workbenches, bought in some tools, and then kind of opened our doors straight away in October. So a couple of months before the pandemic, unfortunately. But yeah, it was all go, really. Our model is actually, it's primarily men, but we also accommodate women. And yeah, it's basically across the board. It's been a struggle for a lot of art organizations to engage more men in activity. So I spent a lot of time just kind of, focusing and researching why that might be and kind of linking that together. And then we developed the shed program. And basically it runs on tinkering sessions and specialized workshops. So members of the community can come and make, socializing and making actually come hand in hand. So I mean, that is the main kind of aim. Yeah, there's so much more to say, but yeah, maybe I can elaborate a little bit more. I'm also a resident, born and raised in North Kensington. Actually tell a lie. I was born and raised in the Finger Blocks, otherwise known as the Walkways. Before Grenfell, we just called them the Walkways. Before then, I was actually in Linden Gardens and Notting Hill, before they moved everybody from Linden Gardens to Grenfell and the Finger Blocks. And yeah, that's me.
Thank you very much, Rasha. Lovely to have you here. And finally, Bashir.
Hi, good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me here. And so Maxilla City is a brand new constituted TIC. We've got 2 out of the 4 of our directors are both young people, and that's obviously part of our focus. And with support from RBKC, our aim is to collaboratively transform the bays into a multi-use space that supports personal and professional development of the youth in our community, whilst also providing services to the wider community. And what we really want to achieve is acknowledging the legacy of its previous users, particularly the Latimer City, and really bring together creative ideas from all the stakeholders involved, from the early MAG groups and the wider community and people who've actually not had a chance to offer their views yet. And so we're located underneath the flyover from Bay 17 to 19, as some of you might know, or just right next to Bay 20. And we're working creatively alongside Adult Social Care, who will occupy part of the bay, and we'll have a shared space and a dedicated community Maxilla City space. And we'll go through a very thorough community engagement exercise, which is why some of you might not have heard of us just yet, but we will be with you soon. And yeah, so we really want to develop a vision of something that lasts as long as my own life, and beyond that, I really want to make this an opportunity to come up with a space that really will last, the challenges that lie ahead, and really respond to the challenges that we've all faced in our recent memory. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Bashir. Welcome here. And yeah, really looking forward to hearing from all 3 of you about some of the issues you're facing, and also the ways forward that we can all come together on and, really make sure this 23X is serving everybody. So having a little bit of a tech issue at the moment, because I'm struggling to hear Didier or Rasha, but Bashir and I can have a conversation.
Sorry about this, Toby. We've got tech on it. We've got somebody dialing in to see what the problem is, but you're doing a great job of bluffing it. So thanks for staying with it.
Thank you. So,
can you hear Isis?
Some tech support on it. So we'll try and fix these issues as quickly as possible. But to begin with, perhaps we could just ask a question that perhaps applies to all of you. how do you feel like for your respective organisations, how important is it to have a space like the 23 acres, which is after all supposed to be, you know, dedicated to the local community, and it's supposed to be here to explicitly support the local local people, local organisations, etc. How important is it, and do you feel that, you know, if it weren't here, for instance, what kind of impact would that have, do you believe, on yourself and your organisation? If maybe Didier, if you'd like to respond to that.
Yeah, thank you very much for the floor. As you know, the 23 acres were made for the community, and then it was asked to, they asked Westway Trust to provide services and space so people can benefit from what was done by then. You remember from 1964 and 70 when they built the A40. But coming back to your question, I would say that this space is very important. Very important because this is the place where charities, the community, can have services, where charities can have offices, where charities can have rooms, halls for the children to come and learn with all the after school classes we have, all the arts art activities that are being run here. All these spaces are very important for the community. And then if we don't have it, it's gonna be really very hard for many communities, community organizations, even for young people, to have opportunities to have space and then use them for their learning, use them for different activities. You can see, like in Bay 20, all this underneath the bridge, there are plenty of organizations with rooms where they can organize activities, workshop, empower people. So I would say all these places are very important, but not only we need to keep them, but I think it's important for us, with Westway being actually the organization that we own, that we own, that's what I would say. We own the Westway Trust. We need to make sure that they work towards making sure that those places are still available, and then even create some more if possible at all. That is what I would say at this level now. Wow.
That is muted.
Is to be around.
Cool. Thank you, Didier. And 23 acres were not here.
I mean, look, we're losing lots of our community along the years, and this specific area, especially since the Grenfell Tower, it's become more and more significant, more and more important to everybody who lives. I personally also, you know, from my background, art and culture is what connects us, and you can see lots of expression and lots of people coming together, and all the amazing organizations that are kind of practicing from under the Westway as well. So yeah, you know, it'd be incredibly sad if we lost that space. You know, like I said, sorry, Bashir, you're based right between the shed, right? And
yeah.
Is it right between the shed and right between Bay 20, between Maxilla Nurseries and Bay 20? Yeah, I mean along that stretch, and as well as like where the Wall of Truth is, etc. Yeah,
we don't extend all the way that far, but we're just adjacent to Maxilla Gardens.
Yeah, I mean, look, what we're doing is awesome, and you know, art and culture is what connects us, and we are connected connecting through, also as a result of that, deeply upsetting. So it would not be a good thing.
Can the panel hear me?
Yes.
What's the silence? Sorry, what happened?
I can't hear Toby right now.
You can't what, sorry?
I can't hear Toby.
I cannot hear.
Nope. I'm lip reading. Can't hear you.
Toby, you're muted. Toby, you're muted.
Toby, apparently you're muted.
Ah, my fault. My bad.
Oh man. Okay.
Sorry.
Right.
I'm trying to manage the
You got the kids. Okay.
bedtime stories
So
that
can
are
we?
going on here.
Sorry to interrupt this, guys. Can we just clarify? Toby, can you hear? Can you speak, please, Didier?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's good for me now.
Okay, Toby was muted. He's the chairman of the Westway Trust. We'll let that go. Okay. And Isis, you can hear. Just thumbs up will do, Isis. Thumbs up will, yeah, everybody, looks like everybody can hear. That's good. Wow,
Cool.
okay.
I think we might be settled now for our sound. The livest sound check you'll ever see.
Nothing discreet.
No, not at all. Good. Well, all right. Well, so yes, Bashir, the question was about really what would the impact be if actually, we didn't have this land? Because, obviously we're in quite a unique situation here in North Kensington. There's no denying whatsoever the pressure that this community has been under for many years. There's no denying the statistical facts of the deprivation and disadvantage that this community copes with and lives with on a daily level. But on the other hand, there's 23 acres of land, which is quite a unique space for any community that certainly that I'm aware of. What does that bring, and what do you think it would be like if we actually didn't have the land?
Kind of in two answers. To put it bluntly, for the first one, we wouldn't have a home to call Maxilla City. And the second part, I think it serves as a place for the community to set up shop and almost display the power of communities self-organizing. And I think what it does is, when you look at the organizations that have operated in and out of that space, many of them have existed for many decades. And it's just, I think it serves as a brilliant reminder as to how individual members of the community can actually self-organize themselves better than statutory bodies have done in the past. And so I think what can be achieved in that space is a creative and collaborative kind of working stream amongst multiple stakeholders, amongst people from different communities who have different interests, who really could come together and use this incredible opportunity of somewhere that's placed in the heart of London, somewhere that is, prized territory. Really, we have access to each other's communities and spaces and people. So, I think the space serves as a very unique opportunity for us to have creative solutions that, as part of an ongoing conversation, to keep it current, keep it refreshed, absolutely not shy away from the difficult questions, which is testament as to how we're sat here today, and really be a front-facing community that works together collaboratively and is forward-thinking. And I couldn't imagine a life without that space. My life pretty much started at the Maxilla nursery, and I spent a lot of time there. And I still think about my favorite days were back then, and my earliest memories were back then. And so yeah, it has a lot of sentimental value for people who've grown up in the community. My mother, my parents, and so I think it has both sentimental and productive value. And looking forward is really how can we almost redesign some of the things that maybe have been kind of left to ruin and just become a working habit, and really how can we have a new forward-thinking stream on that space and make it relevant to this decade and beyond.
Great points. So, I mean, on this idea of redevelopment, it's fantastic. It's amazing, to have the three of you here, who are in, two of you around the Maxilla area. The two of you who are in the Maxilla area, of course, you are in quite iconic spaces. Maxilla City, of course, has taken over the old college building, which also used to be, but for a brief time was a pretty well-known artist studios, Kindred, which really got quite a strong reputation in the very brief time it was there. And then, of course, Rasha, you're in the former Maxilla Children's Centre, which, exactly as you've just said, Bashir, holds such a powerful space in so many local hearts and minds. And then Didier, you're up in Thorpe Close, in the kind of, maybe arguably like the kind of busiest space between Ladbroke Road and Portobello Road. And there's often this question of redevelopment. There are these buildings, many of them that have been there since literally, like as in Maxilla Children's Centre's case, literally since the 1970s. The building is essentially made of asbestos. There are questions about, obviously there would be questions about its safety, although it is perfectly safe. How development, when we're talking about doing new things, people using spaces, like how do the three of you feel about how development could or should work in spaces like this that hold so many memories, but at the same time we're looking at buildings that potentially could be updated or in some cases should be updated? How do you all feel about this issue around development on the land? And that's question first for Rasha, please.
I'm not sure, Toby. I mean, look, I think it's always like, I don't see the point of scrapping and restarting. I think, we have the potential to better what we have. That would be my perspective on the existing situation, really, with some of the buildings. There's room to expand and to better the situation rather than scrapping and starting all over. So I guess that's one perspective.
Yeah. And Bashir, how do you feel about that question?
So firstly, Maxilla will be a refit. And so touching on Rasha's point, absolutely, I think we have spaces that don't need to be demolished and rebuilt. And so Maxilla will serve as testimony to that point and will be redeveloped using the existing external and internal part of the internal design. But on the other hand, I do think when we are in a position of reflection, as we are now, I do think we're presented with an opportunity almost to use it as a blank canvas and be creative. I think we've lived through several very troubling but iconic, nevertheless, experiences of recent history. We've had the appalling Grenfell fire, we've had COVID, and I think there's a lot of learning to be taken from both, from the failures and what has not worked. And it's almost how can we respond in almost like a developmental way. I'm talking almost like a construction way. Is how can we redesign spaces to be environmentally friendly, to be integrated with its community aesthetically, so something that reflects communities in terms of how different colors, what colors represent what extra section of the community. And again, COVID is a real thing, and I think it reflects a real change in public policy towards pandemics. And so how can we redevelop space to almost make them pandemic proof? And so some of the creative ways we're looking at from Maxilla is movable doors and passages that can be entirely moved at any given day, and rooms that can be refit and put together within 10 minutes. And so I think, while I agree that we don't need to scrap everything that we have, I do think in times of reflection, we can use the learnings and the failures of the past and use that to inform kind of more innovative designs to kind of future-proof our spaces while we have them.
Yeah, can I just add to that? Can I just add to what Rasha was saying? So, so during the first lockdown, I had to dig very, very deep to find some pro bono advice out there as to how things might look when we reopen. And this was at the very first lockdown. And obviously, the kind of information that I came across was that ventilation would be key, and we had to adjust and deliver, and that's exactly what we did. We had to move everything around, rebuild our workbenches, make sure that all the benches that we built had basketballs and could fit through double doors. And as a result, we were really lucky to reopen on July the 14th because we space to do so. So I mean, we definitely adjust to whatever's happening, and of course learn from all the things that we've experienced. So I would definitely agree with that as well. And yeah, just as well, I guess, making sure everybody's on their health and safety policies. And I sometimes I've been concerned where I've seen maybe people practicing in projects in external kind of areas where they're not kind of paying attention to any of this. And we have experienced, like Bashir said, the Grenfell Tower fire and the pandemic, and it is important to A, be on top of health and safety, and B, to be able to adjust and deliver, definitely. I'm completely lagging.
Thank you, Rasha. Yeah, this issue, sorry, can you hear me now? Yep,
yes,
good.
Yes.
So yeah, this issue around kind of redevelopment, something you mentioned there, so that I just wanted to really pick up on is, this idea of redevelopment and its environmental impact. I'm really sorry, Rasha, if you've just literally spoken about this and I haven't heard you, but yeah, this issue of environmental impact, I'm aware at the moment there are a number of developments going on in North Kensington. Of course, we kind of touched upon some of those earlier this week when Kim Taylor-Smith was with us for the Our Homes, Where We Live discussion. I'm really very aware, I'm based in Goulburn, and I'm very aware that there are like 3 or 4 enormous developments about to hit Goulburn. And it's going to be, potentially it's going to be 2 or 3 years of trucks, of construction, dust, etc., etc. And so again, this idea of kind of, redevelopment and then kind of balancing that with environmental issues. Rasha, in particular, you're part of the men's shed where, you do a lot of woodworking. There does seem to be, I know there's a focus in your kind of like your personal practice around kind of reusing, recycling, making, older things new or giving them a new twist. Do you think that this is something for the 23 acres? How important do you think it is that as a community, we actually begin collectively to address some of this stuff on the 23 acres?
Very important. So yeah, my practice revolves around the circular economy. So it's the circular economy where recycling is the last possible option. That's my personal practice as an artist and maker. And in the shed, pretty much with everything we do, we try to take that into consideration. So we're very much about reclaimed, repurposing, reusing, and it should become part of our practice. What I talk about a lot in my personal practice and in my personal life is that we're not necessarily at a stage to be 100% sustainable. Not 100% sustainable, but there is an awful lot we can still do, and all these small things that we do. Yeah, great. There's some pictures up from the shed. Yeah, this is the majority of the stuff is reclaimed. We salvage a lot of wood, a lot of materials, planters. Yeah, there's some good planters there. We made some planters with London Sustainability Exchange. But yeah, sorry to not to lose focus. Yes, it's incredibly important, Toby. I don't know if you will completely be able to like avoid it in terms of redevelopment. I don't know if we are at a stage where we can be, but there are so many aspects to factor into the process where you can make a huge difference. And yes, it is a really important conversation and really, really necessary. So yes, we're currently building with our RBKC ecology team, we're building, and Ida Verde, we're building lots and lots of bug hotels for RBKC's open spaces. So yeah, we're trying to do our part, and it's an important conversation.
Can I add something, Toby, on top of this?
Cool, good stuff. And Didier, from
yes,
I mean, I wonder, do you have anything like to say on an issue like this from a sub-Saharan perspective?
Yes, you know, I want just to add something on top of what my colleagues have said. As you know, when I used to work for Migrants Organized as a community organizer, we had a lot of meetings, and then remember one of them is when we were just discussing with the people from BBC and Westway Trust, and Toby, you attended almost all the meetings to discuss about the process of building the Bay 20. So what I want to say is we should be very, very careful about taking action on something. It is always important to make sure that the community, the voice of the community, is taken into account. You saw yourself how the people from the BBC, they wanted really to take it like a business and then make money out of Bay 20, even though it was just in the aftermath of the Grenfell tragedy. They wanted still to make money through their program. Had not been our kind of meetings and then trying to pull them back so they can understand the meaning of what they wanted to do. You can see that the change. So what I want to say is, whatever we want to do, if we have to, it is important to take into account the voice of the community. And so far, Alex, the director of Westway Trust, Alex, I think when we met during that period, they were talking already about redeveloping some places. It is about seeing where that can be done, and then how we can make sure that everyone can use those spaces we want to set up, to build, and then they can run their activities. While we being very careful about, you know, environment we make trying to do. And then Mary Gary did a lot of work, and then we had a lot of meetings, community leaders, and then organization to see what we can do together. Even though the project at one point stopped, you know yourself out this work here. You start the project, and when there's no funding, and then you don't carry on. But yes, I agree. It's important to develop the place, but we need at the same time to keep the balance between develop the place and have our heritage there, so people can, in the future, learn about what the place used to be. Even if we have to make change, not to destroy what have been done in the past. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Didier. So I think we'd like to go. I'd like now to go to a quick break, quick visit. To see who's in the Zoom room. We have with us this evening one of our local creative artists, one of our local creative minds, creative geniuses, with JC Kamal is joining us. JC, greetings. Hello. Fantastic. I can't, unfortunately, I'm having the tech difficulties that I can't
He's
actually
muted.
hear you.
Unmute JC, please. Unmute JC.
Oh, that's your technical difficulty.
Yeah, everything is really muted on our side.
Hello, JC.
Oh, my.
JC Kamal.
You muted JC.
He's talking, but we couldn't hear him.
I know, he's got his microphone turned off.
Oh, yes, yeah, it is. JC, you're muted. Can you switch your microphone on, please? No, I'm out of here. Okay. Well, JC will be with us in a moment, and I'm sure he'll be, bringing some creative words of wisdom, hopefully around the Westway. So let's go to someone else. Who else do we have with us this evening? We have Isis, of course, Jacob. I'm just going to have to get really big on the screen to see those little names. Let me see. We've got Sarah is with us. Fantastic. Can't see who else we've got because the words are a little bit too small for me. JC, are you back? No? Isis, could you perhaps tell us who else we've got with us in the Zoom room this evening? No? Or Jacob, could you tell us who's in the Zoom room?
I can see a few, Toby. I can see Moira.
Yeah, Moira, Ilaria, Mado, Becky, Coach Chris, and Israela Giogina. Griogina? I'm sorry if I mispronounced that.
Is Israela Georgina?
Apologies.
Excellent. Is there anybody who'd like to come into the conversation at this time and sort of share some views on Westway Trust, particularly around things around the environment or development? No? Okay, that's fine. Well, we'll carry on the conversation between us then. So one of the things I think that I've heard a lot between us so far is, this idea of this space, being our land, and this idea of working together. But one of the incredible things, that I see around the Westway Trust is, this incredible autonomy, this incredible mix of loads of different individual organizations, different sizes. The Westway Trust has around 120 tenants of, hugely different sizes. There are also obviously 17 member groups, member organizations who make up the Westway Trust as a membership organization. Again, of all different sizes. You've got residents associations, you've got faith organizations, national charities, housing associations. How do you guys feel in terms of, the Westway? And again, being that, for instance, we've got two pretty much neighbours sat on the panel this evening, who haven't necessarily, connected, in a particularly solid way. What can the Westway Trust do as an organisation, and what can the land do? How do you feel generally that everybody understand how do you think we can work better together? Do you have any kind of ideas or visions of how you feel that this land can connect us, or is that just a utopia that you think we can't really achieve? And that's a question for Bashir.
I think the Westway Trust, I mean, this is just my opinion here. I think a massive thing that we're actually missing in North Kensington community, specifically within the Westway space, is almost like a research hub. I think owing to, first of all, Westway has a massive amount of history. The organizations that form its member organizations collectively have an incredible amount of diversity of its history. And I think a lot of the time, because we're always so focused on service delivery, we almost miss the element of storytelling. And I think to aid the collaboration, I think some time or some effort needs to be spent on the storytelling process, and documenting that history, documenting that journey, the triumphs, the failures, the laughs, the cries, and all of it. And even beyond that, I think documenting community need and insights and the change almost on an annual basis would be brilliant. And yeah, so I do think we have, the Westway Trust could incorporate some research element into it and a documenting process. I'd love to see exhibitions pop up about North Kensington's history. I've personally recently learned about the notorious Peter Ruckman, a landlord of one of the documentaries I was watching, and these kind of histories are never shared. And like, part of the space that was taken over, but I can't remember the name of the radical organization that called themselves the Free
London School.
Free London School, I think, yeah, it was something like that. And they took over this space and, put themselves on the world map and said, this will be an independent part of North Kensington. It'll be their own space. But it's history like this, I'd love to be communicated, documented, and presented, kind of on a more systematic level.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. There's this incredible history that seems strangely to kind of be underground.
Yeah.
You've got exactly something like Frestonia.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have got this thing. There's like the People's Association, which was a kind of a coalition of many different campaigns around the area, including Paris Square. It's there, and it is, it's always been something that I've found slightly strange, actually, that it isn't more well known. I think we Steve McQueen's work on the Small Axe series that brought forward the trial of the Mangrove 9 into kind of a more national public consciousness. But even that, the fact that that's taken 40 or 50 years to kind of reach the BBC is kind of, I've always thought it was a bit strange. But then on the other hand, I've always felt it is down to this community to do it for itself, just as it has done so many things for itself. And perhaps actually that's the best possible thing. Rasha, how do you feel about this idea of maybe more collaboration, and what the land and the trust can do to support that?
I mean, I think you've both kind of hit the nail on the head. I would probably just second everything Bashir said. It really excites me, the idea of storytelling. There's so much space to tell that story and to make the space an interactive space that can tell the story. So yeah, I mean, I definitely, that excites me very, very much. We've got, there's a lot of land around where me and Bashir are anyway. There's so much land to play with and to make it a more welcoming and exciting space. And again, it is all about kind of capacity. So yeah, collaborations on that. Toby, there's a wall I'd love to outside the shed, where I'd love for us to kind of somehow get the community involved in a interactive kind of wall or storytelling, or some artwork.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Didier, how do you feel about the whole the whole thing around collaboration and working together. And again, what can Westway Trust do better as an organisation, or what should the land maybe be doing, or maybe what should be the land being used for in a way that would support maybe better collaboration and better working together?
Yeah, first, I agree with what my colleague have said there. There are many ways we can work together, be it in terms of creating what I can call like a kind of common zone. Common zone for me is like where all the organizations, they try to leave their own interest out of a certain box. We can have a box where when we come, we just talking about.
Paused, just to let you know.
Somebody's interrupting me there. Can I carry on?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm struggling. I'm not. Yeah, not hearing you.
Okay.
You might have to start using some sign language to sort of say. I'm finished.
What I was saying is, what I was saying is, I agree with what Rasha just said now. At the same time, I think there is a way to really collaborate together, be it in terms of art at a project, heritage project. Before even the lockdown, the first wave, we were preparing as an organization, we were preparing a project about how we can tell the story of industrial heritage in North Kensington. Well, actually, we couldn't make it, even though we were in a long conversation already with the founder. We couldn't make it because things changed, and then it was a kind of project where we had to come together and then meet physically. So we just scrapped the project. We start thinking of something else. It's possible to work together in terms of projects, run project together. We have been doing it as an organization. We have tried in the past to work collaboratively with other organizations, even doing big projects with Cambridge coming here under the bridge here, doing project running workshop for the community. We had many professors from Cambridge, from UCL, from the Royal Geographic Society coming here, running projects with community members, and then traveling there as well, running even exhibitions. We are lucky that through a project we have been given a program where we can even run exhibition online. That was done by, I think, University College of London, and then it was improved by University of Cambridge. So there are many ways we can work together. We can, like, let's say we have a program where you can run an exhibition online. We can work with Akava. They can come with a project. They can run their own exhibition on our website. All these things are possible. So it's just about discussing, meeting, trying to put ideas together.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Didier. Is there anybody again in the Zoom room who'd like to respond to this particular question, this particular issue around like what can the 23 acres do? You know, and again, really kind of open it out, not just to the organization, but also the actual space itself. You know, whether or not that's making more use of particular communal spaces, better, this idea of better signage, better wayfinding, any particular thoughts that anybody in the Zoom room might have to, how can this 23 acres of ours, in effect, do a better job at bringing us together to create more spaces of collaboration, solidarity, etc., etc., and just to better enable this incredible community to, in effect, do what it does so well already. Is there anybody up there?
Hello? Toby?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, JC.
I wasn't going to comment on what you was talking about. I was just going to do the poem and done because.
All right, that's absolutely fine. Let's take a poetry break, and maybe Technic can support our our hearing issues whilst you're doing your poem. Absolutely. Go for it. Over to you, JC Kamal.
Okay. So I'm on the phone, so I can't do what I want to do. I want to have some music in the background, but instead, hopefully the connection stays as well. Anyway, so the first one I'm going to do is, for the longest of times here I've been standing, at my strongest, fighting the ineptness of Western people. I've had moments where energy has been wilting, exasperated by the weak. I seek happy people with spiritual abilities, like a blackbird flying high, finding what mankind finds impossible, soft and easy. Instead, people behave more like Daffy Duck after he's had his beak blown to bits. Absolutely embarrassing. Graciously guide your guests from the ground floor. Love has come around, so take a stance. Enhance your mental majesty. Prime yourself for the penthouse. Characterize chance, a figment of fiction. Reap the rewards of realizing all experiences are dedicated to you due to divine law. Step up to this platform, the simple request of a bored few who want you to transform quickly like Bumblebee. But unfortunately, brethren, this is not a old movie transformed into a new style. Step up to this platform. The request I ask you is because we are struggling. The life we need to do to change is to be uplifting. We can only change society if society, in the people in society, make those changes wholeheartedly. Do it fluid, breathe, close your eyes and look within. See the kingdom of heaven. Beautiful balance, tremendous tranquility, cool calmness. Shift the polarization to mosaic Merkaba via mental transmutation. Be at one, freed away, breathe deeply. So now I, JC Kamal, send out a call to those of you who, when it's time to move on up, they stumble, they cower, they fall. Collectively, they scramble under an umbrella when they are showered with true knowledge, the earth's greatest power. My mind stepped into mysterious places and spaces. It was my destiny to find a way orchestrating very divine awakening word. The vibrations I heard were spectacular sounds. I translated them especially for you so that love can come around. So that was the first one. I hope you heard that and it all went swimmingly.
We did, JC. It was great. It was great. Thank you.
Now
we have some applause from the studio audience, please. Unmute those microphones. Let's have some support, some solidarity for JC. Lovely clapping there. Thank you.
10 minutes, and that was quite short. I'm gonna do a second one. This is really short, and hopefully you will feel uplifted and positive. And
do I have a link, Nick?
This is Toby. The reason why I'm doing this is because Toby knows this one quite well. Because in previous times we've worked together, and I have done this in conjunction with Toby. So I thought, might as well. This is called the Cultural Revolution. The world is a mess.
I'm gonna end my current one, yeah? Yeah. Get out of here.
Hello? Shall I just go?
Just give it
yes,
1
please,
second,
JC. Yes, please.
1 second, 1 second.
All right, sorry.
What's up, JC?
Ready?
Yep, go for it.
Yeah, ready.
The world is a mess. The vicious vibrations that our internal and ingests damages the brainwaves, making it ambiguous and awkward to feel blessed. Finding your inner worth in a time of evil on earth is a true test. Separated by secular scriptures, pleasures of a carnal nature are ignorantly expected. What lies beneath is no longer respected. Difficult to break away from the ferocious foolishness. Desecration of our greatest temples is a major violation. Mankind must manipulate its most magnificent monuments into marvelous manifestations. Get back to our miraculous psychic sensations. Crystal characters directing energy for glorious, harmonious illuminations. The revolution was not televised because it did not happen. It's time for us to make that change. This selfish age we must rearrange. People, get ready for the cultural revolution. Peace and unity is the solution. That was that.
Brilliant, JC.
I hope the connection was all good and you enjoyed it, and you can all be uplifted people. Thank you for the claps.
I think your Wi-Fi's struggling a little bit, JC, but that was good.
Okay, big up to all of you who have done such good things for the community via this Westway Trust along the 23 acres. Well done. May we have more good vibes in the future when lockdown is finished. Bye.
Have we got Toby?
Toby's reconnecting on a different call, so maybe if somebody could speak, just fill the gaps for us.
I just wanted to, I have to leave very shortly, but I just wanted to read a comment and I'll
Thank
throw
you.
that in. It comes in from Gabrielle, who's a local resident, and she said that because she's not in the Zoom room, she's asked me to send it in. So her comment is, the one thing she said is that she would suggest for the Westway Trust to do in order to incubate talent and build collaboration is to host a range of regular events for tenants and their neighbors. And this will create natural opportunities to share information, build relationships, and co-create innovation, natural partnerships. And she thinks that that corporate mixes, but with a community style, not stuffy, but vibrant, perhaps curated with a focus or theme on each occasion. So yeah, the idea of getting people together, getting the tenants and the other community organizations together to kind of, see what comes out. I mean, I really love the idea of building collaboration, co-creation, building relationships, that sort of thing.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to come in on Toby's invitation earlier prior to the poetry. And in response to the conversation that's been talking about what people are doing and how the space can be used, how we'd like to use it. Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
I'm really appreciating the evening, and it feels like I don't want to big up this event too much because I've been involved in it, but it does feel. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of things that have led to this event. A lot of things, and there are a lot of people that are involved in that. So it's not just like the people that are putting it on, but it does feel like a sense like a very nice sort of turning point in the community where we're coming together. And I think if we look at the Westway 23 acres and we look at the individual spaces and individual people, and I'm hearing a lot of like commonality, people talking about the same things, and to sort of really look at the oneness of 23 acres, and that though we're doing our separate things and we have our separate names, that brings us together. And I think Isis, and I've heard that the term used before, and libraries have that, they're that space where the library have the term where it brings people together. It's for everyone, doesn't matter what your background or what your faith, or it's a precious space. It's a very important space, and it's not really owned by anyone but all. So, you know, the Westway can be like that as well. It is like that. And I just acknowledging, just trying to sort of recognize this oneness that seems to be people talking about the same things and, you know, having a lot of the same concerns and problems and desires. And so just appreciating that, and that we can acknowledge maybe that, like you know, that we are, you might be Akava, you might be Maxilla, you might be this, but we are, you know, the 23 acres, something that might, you know, that we are moving together, and it does feel like that. And I definitely think, you know, thanks to I want to say thank you to the hardworking trustees that have taken on this task at this time, because I know I'm quite close to them, and the amount of meetings they're doing, and it's just enormous. It really is. And you know, so, you know, all of the trustees that stepped up, and you just couldn't imagine, you know, how they're, you know, dealing with it. It's like they're out at sea, you know, in this huge storm, you know, huge storm, and, you know, they're picking up the pieces already like a broken ship, and that, you know, they're being hit by something that, you know, no one knows, you know, or had any, you know, clue about or experience with. And, you know, they're sailing this, you know, sailing it fine and to calmer waters, you know, and all that. And so, you know, the trustees and all of the people that have kept with it, you know, kept and getting with it, you know, so bless up. Love it. That's it.
Thank you, Jacob. Wonderful. Any other views from the Zoom room? Any more thoughts from the Zoom room?
I have to go,
Okay,
but I was
so-
just going to really quickly say, one of the things, and I know it came up a couple of months ago at the town hall at the full council meeting, but I consider that RBKC need to play a greater role in supporting the Westway Trust and in providing particularly financial support, because although the Tutu report was into institutional racism at the Westway Trust, what clearly emerged from that is that actually much of it was orchestrated by the practices implemented and overseen by RBKC. And ultimately, RBKC are also guilty of institutional racism. It's like in that legal term of vicarious liability. They set up the Westway Trust to operate in such a way that it would perpetuate racist practices. And I feel that part of what, you know, besides apologizing in terms of reparatory justice, I would like to see, and I'd be interested to see how practical and not practical, how realistic it is that RBKC will actually put funding to support the initiatives happening underneath the Westway. So including supporting the Westway Trust, but looking at how things have to improve, how communities have to come together, resources need to be made available, spaces need to be improved, and what role does RBKC have in repairing that damage? And you know what, they are culpable, and I would like to put it out there that RBKC really need to step up and take responsibility as well. And they are far more financially resourced than the Westway Trust. So what they should be doing is putting resources into the Westway Trust to enable them to realize some of the things that need to happen. And I'm unfortunately have to go, but thank you for a great conversation, panelists and host and everyone else. I'll just leave that there.
Thank you, Isis.
Okay, thank you.
Can I also say something? I mean, I don't think I have anything particularly new to say because you guys are doing a great job. This is why I didn't say anything before. Just one little thing. You know, some would be nice to see some, you know, to do some research about plants that are, you know, easy to plant and they grow fast and they absorb, you know, all this pollution, and plant them all along the Westway. That would be like just fantastic.
Absolutely. I mean, on that particular point, I I think now would be an appropriate time to plug Westway Trust and all all the work that's going on, because it's not really a plug. It doesn't feel like a plug here. We have a pretty amazing project actually coming up. It's called the Community Street. When the new board came on board at the beginning of last year, of course, we had this enormous impact of COVID on the organisation. But one thing that we were left with, which we were very, thankful from the previous people who'd gone before us, was a successful bid to the GLA Good Growth Fund. And what that meant was around £1.3 million coming into the Westway Trust, which the Westway Trust has matched. As part of that particular fund, you're supposed to match that funding. So Westway Trust has matched it to the tune of around £1.5 million to make a total of around sort of 2.5 million pounds, somewhere like that. And it's all about improving the public realm along the entire stretch of the 23 acres. So, and part of that is absolutely about greening. There's around £500,000 which is dedicated to greening and beginning the, frankly, again, enormous, almost existential battle against the pollution and to mitigate the effects of the pollution. It's something that the new board looked at last year. We were going to commit to still spending this £1.5 million that comes out of the reserves of the Westway Trust. It's a struggle. It means that it's a struggle for the organisation at the moment because of both the massive hit on the finances from COVID, but at the same time committing £1.5 million to doing this work. But the board unanimously agreed that this was simply not a project that could be paused or stopped because it's far too important to start addressing some very serious issues. So that's something that's going to be coming. We've started this year, and there's going to be more and more about that.
That's great, yeah. Because at the end of the day, the Westway was founded, I don't know, like the right word. Anyway, was instituted to give something back to the community because we only had pollution, right, from the Westway. So this is really central, isn't it? Fantastic.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I mean, it's a relatively. We have to be honest. It's a relatively small amount to deal with some enormous issues. But we do hope that at the very least, it's going to be, the beginning of really engaging people. And it's one of the things that the board has implemented to get it going is to not only have a design brief, but also a co-design brief. And so we'll be engaging an organisation to really run the design in a really co-design participatory way. So yeah, we're really looking forward to opening that up this year and really engaging with the community on all of that. There's been a couple of things mentioned from ISIS there that I'd like to pick up on that kind of come back to both the issue of this community and what we do, but also the title of this talk here, Westway Trust and Beyond. And I'd like, some views from our wonderful panelists here on this. The first question is how, and it might be quite controversial to some people, how radical should we be? And I'm going to put that to Radical Rasha, please.
Oh my God. You need to clarify, elaborate, Toby. What do you mean how radical should we be in terms of what? In terms of what?
Well, I wanted to leave it quite open, but no, fair enough. So how radical, as in, for instance, how far should we be pushing the council? And how far should we be pushing kind of each other? How much of a, for instance, how much of a beacon should the Westway Trust be, or should the 23 acres be, in terms of environmental issues, in terms of social issues? How far should the Westway Trust be pushing, or should it not? That's what kind of the point.
No.
Oh, there you go.
No, we should be pushing all the way. No, look, absolutely, we should be pushing. I don't know, like as far as we can. I think they have a moral obligation and a duty of care to make the space safe. So before we can talk about anything else, we need more lighting. There are leaks coming from the actual motorway that just drip all over the people. I mean, these things need to be resolved before we can take anything to the next level. So if that means pushing the council or whoever it is to address these issues, then we should absolutely be pushing until these things are resolved. It's very well kind of, if, all the things that I talked about that I'd love to see, a community space, interactive art, storytelling, all this stuff is like, it's no good if everyone's scared because there's no lights and there's water leaking all over the place, that it feels grim. So yeah, radical all the way. I don't know. That's I might contribute more in a moment, but I'll give someone else a chance to see how radical.
Great. No, very good point. Great point. Come back to that in a moment. But Didier, your thoughts on radical?
No, I think, yes, myself, I'm from that culture of being radical, but not every time. In these occasion, I think what I would suggest is that we see where we have to be radical. Like in terms of our relationship with the council, I think as is mentioned at the beginning, or before she left, I think the council should be putting some money to support Westway Trust. I know Westway Trust have some source of income, but at the same time, with all the COVID stuff consequences, I think the council should be putting some money. Because even coming back to what Aziz said, they were kind of responsible as well, and directly responsible for what was going on in Westway Trust. They should be putting someone to support Westway Trust, and then we have to make sure that Westway Trust, they really understand the remit, because at times it looked like they didn't understand really the remit. They have, as said at the very beginning, Westway Trust should look after the community by making sure all the space here is pollution free. So someone should be put into different projects or themselves run some projects to make sure we are pollution free. The second thing is to make sure that there is a discussion. It's good to say, okay, let's be radical. Okay, radical about what? There should be a conversation so we can agree on things and agree on some demands. If we don't have demands, then they won't know on what aspect of thing they should act. We should have a conversation, have our demands. That is why I always say organizing is important. Organizing. It's very important to learn to bring together our issues, because sometimes people come with their problems. There is a difference between problems and issues. When it's a problem, it's your problem, is what you are going through. That's your problem. When your problem is the same as mine, the same as the one Rasha has, it becomes the issue. So we need to bring our issue, discuss about it, and then discuss on how we can address them, and then take them to the local authorities or whoever to address them. And then there should be some clear demands from the community, and then demand that will be the result of a listening exercise.
Wow, what a wonderful answer, Didier. When problems coalesce, they become issues. I love that. Wonderful. Bashir, how radical would you like to be? Or would you just like to freeze on that point?
He dropped out a minute ago. Has he gone and come?
That's out. That's okay. We can come back to that. There's no way I'm letting Bashir off that question. That's that.
He's lost his internet apparently. Sorry guys, he's lost his internet. Be back with you soon.
Okay, no problem. Well, look, we'll come back to that question. And yeah, I mean, I'd certainly love to ask some of the Zoom room that question. But before I do, I'd just like to respond very much to Rasha.
One has come in, the other one has gone.
I think they're coming in on the same link. Okay. Bashir?
Yes.
You're live. I think you've possibly just... I think you've come in on... Okay. This is strange. Good. I'll tell Toby. Could you... Bashir, could you talk? I'll get Toby back on.
Okay. I'm happy to give kind of my answer to that question of how radical. I could start off with a quote by my personal hero, Malcolm X. He said, "And I, for one, will join in with anyone. I don't care what color you are, as long as you want to change this miserable condition that exists on this earth." And so what I kind of really take from that is I will go and partner with anyone to the extent in which that change for the better is their, what drives them. And so to answer that question, how radical, I'm thinking quite radical. I think, the experiences that this community has lived through has been quite challenging and quite traumatic and quite radical themselves. I don't think many communities have experienced what ours has. And so radical problems require radical solutions. And so, yeah, and by radical, it doesn't have to mean destructive. It can mean incredibly creative working streams. It can mean working in ways we've never had. I think this is quite a radical presentation today. We've had to connect through Skype and all sorts of different means. But yeah, I think it's really testament to the opportunity of let's think in a way that we haven't thought of. And let's work with people maybe we've not thought to work with. Let's engage people that have not been engaged or we didn't think to engage. And yeah, I think I'm all about, breaking the wheel, and breaking the wheel of power, as said in Game of Thrones, and kind of really just trying to reinventing the wheel. So yeah, I'm all for the radical.
Fantastic. I came in at just the right time, Bashir. Brilliant. Thank you for that wonderful answer.
You missed my Malcolm X quote, but I'll share that to you later.
Yes, I'll definitely be back for that. Thank you. Okay, yeah. So I just pick out just before I dropped out there. It was this idea that Rasha, I thought it really well put, well voiced. This issue of being radical with the structure to begin with, and being radical, as an organisation. On this point, yeah, I'd like to bring in somebody from the Zoom room, but a particular person. But there's a lot of work to be done on this structure. We know it's quite an aging structure now. It's obviously into its basically 50th, 52nd, 53rd year. We have these enormous leaks coming through. There's a series, a lot of work that's going to be done over the coming months by TfL. They are effectively the actual owner of the structure and owner of the land, and they then hand that land down to RBKC, who then hand it down to the Westway Trust. So TfL is the main landlord and has to look after the structure, which is having problems, and it's being fixed up. There's going to be these big works going on. But again, I would point back to the community street. You mentioned lighting, Rasha. There's around £250,000 in the budget for lighting across the Westway estate. So again, that's something we really want to engage with the whole community on, looking at how we can light this space and how we can actually make it a safe and attractive structure. And then I think you're absolutely right. We need to be engaging with TfL, and with the GLA to deal with both the pollution, but also simply the structure itself, and to ensure, if there are leaks, they're dealt with or they're mitigated somehow, so that it is as good a foundation as we can possibly get to work from. So that's really, really powerful, well-made point, and certainly the Westway Trust needs to take that on board. But yeah, back to this issue though of, I suppose, radical, and I'd really love to bring in someone from the Zoom room who is one of the trustees, the new trustees of Westway Trust. I believe we have Shireen in the Zoom room. Hello, great to see you.
Can you turn your phone widthways, Shireen, please? Can you turn your phone widthways? Could you turn your phone widthways for us? Bless you. Thank you.
Okay. Better. Good evening, everybody.
Fantastic. You're one of the trustees. Sorry.
Hi, Eulalia. Evening, everybody.
Evening. Good evening, Shireen. So yeah, I suppose the question of kind of like how as a long-term resident, someone who's grown up in the area, someone who's seen huge change, around where you've grown up, and as an organization, now that you're actually in the organization, you've kind of got your hands on it, and you're one of the people responsible for the strategic direction and everything. Feel about how radical the organization needs to be, or indeed, coming back to Rasha's point, where we need to start this radicalism.
Okay, so I think the change was very radical. So that's the starting point. And there has been so many different events that have happened in the community that have actually positively given people a voice. And, this new change at the Trust had to be radical in order for the organisation to evolve into the community-led type of organisation that we want it to be. But, considering I was a trustee previously at the Trust, I see the direction that the Trust needs to go in. And for me, because I've seen parts of the past, I also have to break off of those elements in order to fully submit myself to the changes that are going ahead. And sometimes, I'll be honest, I don't struggle, but there is hesitation because I've seen the old, and the new is, or can be sometimes, quite difficult to free ourselves up to be. But as I say, the change was radical, and I feel that if the spirit of radicalism is used in the right way, and obviously it's difficult to get everybody to sing from the same hymn sheet, but if there's a more of a unified approach, a more integrated approach, and partnership led, I think that there will be more of an even keel in regards to satisfying the needs of the community. And that might take time. Some people expect it to happen overnight, but as we know, change happens in different phases. It happens in many different ways. Sometimes there is the unexpected. So what is planned may not go to plan. So it's about just anticipating, how we visualize the future to be, and try our best to, work towards that. And that is what we are trying to do. And that is what we are doing at the Trust. And it's been a lot of hard work. It's been tiresome. It's been turbulent. But it's been great. And being part of the board and seeing these changes and actually being able to sit into committees that previously I may not have had the chance to, because I was from the community. It's positive having more community members on the board, because then the community voice is stronger. And that's something that has definitely been refreshing and innovative this time around.
Thank you. Amazing. Just a small follow-up on that. I mean, what has it meant? I mean, this is something I asked the panelists earlier, you know, in the sense of what does the 23 acres kind of do for us, and what would happen if it wasn't here? Being now that you're on the trust, and you on the trustee board, and you mentioned, for instance, being part of the committees and the like, could you give people an idea of like what it's brought for you? Because I mean, I could talk all day about kind of at this point in my life in terms of what it's finally, after a long battle, bringing for me as an individual. You know, how do you feel? How does that make you feel? Do you feel like it's helping you, and if so, in what ways?
Yeah, I definitely think so. You know, I think, and it's a very public space, and it's a very open thing to say, but I think before there was a lot of grandiousness towards the trust, but in terms of actually unpacking what the trust does, and actually looking at the realness of what it represents, there's always kind of haze within it. There's a lot of haze. But since, you know, coming on as a trustee this time, and being able to engage in the change, and actually to see my decision making, should I say, actually being listened to and followed through, and also collective ideas being discussed, and you know, pragmatism, you know, just the time that we take to evolve our ideas, and you know, our vision of how we want the organisation to look or to be. It's been, yeah, it's been, as I said before, a challenge, but it's been great, you know, and empowering for myself, I would say, because you know, I've been involved in community initiatives out of the borough, and I've seen change. You know, I was part of an organisation called Narrative Eye, and you know, we did a lot of events around Black history, and you know, focusing a lot on the Tudor period or Black British history. And you know, it was a hard-working team, and seeing a lot of things that a lot of doors that needed kicking down and knocking down. You know, it's like 5 years ago, if I was to talk about race relations or a petition, talking about, you know, stopping the violation and the killing of the African descendants, etc., globally, I remember being at, you know, a primary school, and with a petition, and the headmistress looking at me like, "Oh my God, radical," you know. But like fast forward to 2020, 2021, and with, you know, like with a lot of the, you know, the issues globally that are going on and stuff, it's quite I wouldn't say normalized, but people are actually stepping up and making their voices heard. And I think it's really, really important that communities like ours, who for many decades have been through, you know, some changes that we haven't even been aware of until the changes are actually in place. I think it's great that there are a lot of people who are more involved in community endeavours, because we have to be at the table. We have to sit at the table in school governance, in community governance, corporate governance. We have to be at the table so that we can understand how the system works, and that we're able to, with our, you know, ourselves breathing in our energies from our lived experience, and even our perhaps educated experiences as well, you know, we're able to breathe in that new lease of energy that is definitely needed. And I would say that the community-led board is actually, you know, we're leading the way with that. And as I say, what we have to do now is communicate that to the community, because a lot of work has been done over the past year, and it's just sped through. And then we've had COVID on top of that. And, you know, we've had to really look after the staff, really look after the board. And I don't think that has actually been done to the level that we're actually doing it at. So, yeah, it's been a positive experience, and it has actually given me empowerment to influence my daughter's primary school, my daughter's secondary school, and other initiatives as well. So it's you know, we've seen the change, we are the change, and you know, it's about belief that change will come, but it's not easy, and you have to keep going. It takes a lot of time. You know, I've got a family, and you know, a lot of time has been dedicated to the trust, but I wouldn't have it any other way. And the board has been so supportive. So it's been a great experience.
Thank you, Shireen. Wonderful words. Thank you.
And Toby as chair has been amazing. He's been amazing.
Oh, really?
He's worked tirelessly hard. And yeah, he's an amazing artist. We know Toby's work is just amazing. I want that Erica Badu Toby. Erica Badu. But no,
that's the exchange. That's the exchange going on here.
It's been, you know, it's been amazing, and you know, it'd be nice, it would be refreshing if, like, when we are at a point where the community can actually come in and, you know, kind of just shadow our meetings. It might be in a year, I don't know, but to actually see what work is being done internally, then, you know, I think the understanding will be had externally as well.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, yeah, there's a lot there to be in terms, again, back down to this issue of radicalism. You know, how radically transparent could we be in an organization like Westway Trust? So, yeah, let's move on to a kind of into the last kind of 15 minutes or so. And I'd be interested to just explore a bit more about this idea of beyond. You know, the 23 acres, Westway Trust, and beyond. You know, there's been quite a history in this local area of organisations that have started to address a certain need, that have then grown and grown and grown. I suppose it's, to some degree, it's the nature of innovation. You know, whether that be Notting Hill Carnival, of course, which, you know, has grown and grown and grown. Or something. Oh, sorry, could we mute the Zoom rooms, please? Could people in the Zoom room just mute, please? Cheers. And so, yeah, this idea that, you know, things just grow and grow here. And another obviously great example is the Notting Hill Housing Trust, which for many people today has grown into something that, frankly, they'd rather it hadn't. With that in mind, something like Westway Trust, you know, we have 23 acres. I'd be interested in asking the panelists, you know, how far do you think Westway Trust, you know, should grow? Should the organisation and indeed the community kind of look beyond itself? You know, we've got this incredible history. I think, you know, when Bashir spoke about it and, you know, touched upon it earlier, this idea that it's almost a little bit strange that more people don't know kind of a lot of the things that have gone on here. Should we be reaching out more? Should we actually be stretching beyond the 23 acres, beyond the 5 wards of North Kensington? Or do you feel that, you know, out there beyond there lies whatever that saying is, you know, lies ghosts or whatever it is? Is Is it something that we should really be just kind of like sticking to what we've got now, or should we be looking further? Didier, how do you feel about
that? I think any organization normally, when you are an organization, you want to grow. I'm really happy and keen for Westway to grow as an organization, but at the same time, we should always think of the kind of growth we want. I don't want a Westway Trust that will grow as a business minded. I want them really to grow by taking into account being really an organization for the community, not kind of become what it used to be recently, like they want just to become a proper business, as we know, to make interest or to make money. No, Westway Trust should grow, but by putting in place all structure to make sure that the community at the same time grow. Because there is Westway in one hand as an organization, but there is in the other hand the community as a place where people live. We want a Westway Trust that grows by creating jobs locally, that create projects put in place, projects that can recruit and employ people locally. That is the kind of growth I want, not the kind of growth that where they just want to make more space and then people can come from outside, start renting places, making money, and then is in your reserve. That's what I don't want.
Thank you, Didier. Bashir, what are your thoughts on that? Westway and Westway Trust, the land, look outside, look beyond 23 acres, or should we continue to be quite kind of, close and internally focused?
Right, because I think there is a lot of history to first be rectified internally first. And so I think if at first we're to rectify kind of the problems and the concerns, as you've mentioned, I've already spoken with Osama about kind of the community street and some of the brilliant and creative ideas that Westway are really coming up with to kind of mitigate these issues and concerns that have been raised, such as lighting and sustainability and greenery, signage, etc. Like, I think these are incredible steps that are currently being taken by the trust to first look within. And I think beyond that, I think it's time, there's never been a greater time for Westway Trust to serve as the beacon for North Kensington, illustrating how local residents have taken control of an organization and are running it better than their predecessors, involving more community members than their predecessors. And kind of looking forward, it'd be a brilliant opportunity actually to now look beyond and involve other organizations, other kind of umbrella organizations like the trust. And yeah, I think it's an exciting time.
Thank you, Bashir. And Rasha, what are your thoughts on that?
I've been part of like some creative conversations where there's a lot of talk about the South and North divide and how to build those bridges. So I'm not against the idea of expanding. I just think there's an awful lot still to establish before expanding can be addressed. Similar to what Bashir said. And again, just kind of regaining a lot of the things we've lost, because I grew up in this community. I started off in Linden Gardens. It was a beautiful street. It was mainly North African and Caribbean families. All our doors were open. Everybody, it was like a small. We're richer together, and I feel like we've lost a lot of that. And even when I moved to the Finger Blocks or Lancaster West area, again, it was the same thing. There was this idea that there's a wealth of knowledge and experience amongst your neighbours. There was someone to help you fix your car. There was someone to help you pick up kids. I mean, there was this incredible sense of community, and we felt empowered and rich with that. I feel like we've lost a lot of that. And before we can even think of moving and expanding, which I'm not against. I just feel like we need to, establish the foundations here in our area. And as a local resident, if I'm honest, forever, I didn't really know what the Westway did. I knew the Westway by name. So I think there's a lot of relationships still to build, and a lot of local organizations to support and collaborate with. And then I think expanding would probably be the next step. That's my thoughts.
Perhaps we could bring in some of the Zoom room on this idea of, should we be continuing to look inward, or when might be the time to start looking outward and looking beyond? Is there anyone in the Zoom room who'd like to respond to that?
Can I just say something, Toby? Let me just turn my camera again.
Of course, Ray.
Landscape.
Yeah, go for it, please.
I think, as the young man on the panel said, that, focusing on the internals, it's like looking in your neighbour's back garden when you've got weeds growing in your own type of thing. Do you know what I mean? Focus on what's going on in your own back garden. And then when you've got that correct and that right, then you can start, looking about change in the neighbours' gardens to make, things a lot better and stuff. And I believe that if we, or when we become the organisation that we envisage, and that, the community has input on piecing together to be that organisation, that, we can, just like the 2-2 report, for example, we can be a blueprint for other organisations and for other communities, and, perhaps even have like a global footprint where there are, places all over the globe who might able to, mirror what we do, because we are the change that we want to be.
Brilliant. Thank you, Shireen. Very wise words. So in our last 5 minutes, I know we've got Sarah, who's been an instrumental part of the campaign to change this organisation and get us to the, get Westway Trust to the point it's at now. Who's been part of a part of the land, a part of the actual 23 acres, which has been so instrumental and such a strong cultural part of the local area. Sarah, you're obviously connected to the horses and the stables. How are things there?
Yeah.
How do you feel the direction of travel is going? I know it's been a long and arduous path for you. Are we any closer to the end?
Well, I hope so, but I really hope so. We should really be closer to the end. They say that because obviously it's not just myself, it's kind of the decisions are made by the charity. They say that they hope to bring horses back in July, but I personally can't see that we'll be back by that time. But we'll just have to wait and see. And it has been a very, very long struggle for myself. It's been quite a disruptive to my whole, to my whole life, really. But I've kind of stuck in there because I do think that it is a resource that should be there for everybody in North Kensington. And hopefully it will be back soon.
So what's the plan in terms of trying to get the horses back onto the land and get stables? I mean, is there a plan for completely new stables? Is it going to be the old stables?
Well, there was a plan which was quite elaborate, which was for millions and millions of pounds, which I just thought that's just absurd. I just feel that that's a ridiculous amount of money to spend on places for horses to live.
and even on an education facility. There's no need, in my eyes, to spend that much. I've managed to source, which is like an American barn, which could literally just be put onto the concrete of the old stable site. And then hopefully education buildings built around it. In my eyes, things like, I don't know if you know about straw works, you know, when they build stuff out of boughs of straw and lime. It's like an old way of building things. I just think it's very nice if we did stuff like that, so that the local children, you know, can see how things were built years ago, and they can come and visit why it's being built. So it can, you know, it's just stuff that we can engage the whole way along with everybody from the beginning. So that's that's how I see and would like the project to go forward. I'm really not into the millions of pounds amazing build. We want an adequate facility that's going to, you know, be really educational and do lots for the community. But I don't want it to be just about a building. For me, it's more about people utilising and being comfortable in the place. So I just hope that we can get back soon.
Fantastic. That sounds amazing, Sarah. And I think that's kind of pretty much the perfect way to wrap this up, really. I think we kind of end up back almost where we started, which was talking about what kind of buildings and development and everything. And I think, this idea of actually thinking more about the people and how the community is involved in development. It's not just about this end place. It's actually all about the journey and how we actually get there as a community, as individuals, and what we can gain from these journeys, what we can gain from this land. So that sounds amazing, Sarah. And I'm sure everyone at the Westway Trust, including myself, really looking forward to supporting you with that and carrying that strong message of what development actually needs to be about on our 23 acres. So thank you very much for that. I'd just like to go maybe to each panelist before we wrap things up here. And are there any final words you might like to say about 23 acres, your own work, or anything else? Didier?
No, just maybe thank you very much. Just a message, just to say that there have been many successes toward achieving unity and solidarity in the community. But most of the time, we have been working on identifying and tapping into a narrow self-interest. It is time now, I think, that we move and expand that to what is broadly in the interest of everyone, in the interest of the community. If we want to work and succeed on this process of unity and solidarity between us, we really need to scale up our work as a unit while recognizing that there are specificities for organizations. We should be prepared not to get things perfectly done all the time, but we should also be prepared to say that if we get something wrong, we should not stop from organizing ourselves. But this should be the very reason to carry on until we get to the level of being a powerful community with a powerful voice and get gains of our different actions. This will be possible only if we organize ourselves. We are united and show solidarity in this exceptionally long journey. This is the last message.
Yes, brother. Unmute.
Rasha? Oh, sorry.
Look, again, I think we are definitely stronger together, united. I just want to see more dialogue, more collaborations. We're all we all suffer with our kind of capacity and funding and restrictions, etc. And there is room to kind of grow together. There's room to reach out to each other and help with resources. And that's what I'd like to see more of. I think what we're missing is just this platform, a platform where we can all share resources and help. For example, when we first reopened, when the shed first reopened, a lot of my time went on into kind of writing COVID policies and risk assessments, and it's such a lot of work. And then I was ready to open, and I was like, well, hold on a minute, I'd love to share this with everybody and anybody. And actually, it was Joe Batty who was like, let me share it. And I was like, great, if that will save somebody hours of admin and help them start the process, then let's do it. And I just thought, well, there should be this platform where we could help and share these resources with each other, because we are restricted. It's always a case of, everybody wants to collaborate, everyone's stuck by funding, capacity, time, and I just think we're stronger together. So I just encourage more dialogue and unity, I guess.
Lovely, thank you, Rasha. And final word from Bashir.
Thank you. I mean, just to touch on Rasha's point, I think she captured it brilliantly. I mean, without saying too much, I think Maxilla City, and where I think as I'm speaking as an individual director here, where I think there's incredible opportunity is that tangible collaboration that you talk about. It's great to talk about opportunities and spaces in which we can do things collectively, but it's who can link people and organizations together in ways that are practical, realistic, and tangible. And I say this, look, we're about to go through a community consultation where we're going to collect ideas and feedback from members of the community. And one thing that I think I've picked up on earlier, as I've mentioned, I'd love to see a research unit. I'd love to see kind of a permanent store of North Kensington's history. But really and truly, I think it would be brilliant if, first of all, we've been blessed with a massive space in Bay 17. And if that community space was to become a conduit to those very things that we've mentioned today, I think that would be a brilliant success. But look, no decisions have been made or can be made just yet. And again, as Didier said, look, we have to be front facing. I'm not shy to make mistakes. Like I said, I'm only 22 years of age. And so I've got a lifetime of mistakes ahead of me, and we're a brand new organization. We're going to make mistakes. We're not going to, speak to everyone, and that's fine. What we will do and pledge to is always be available, always be reachable, find us on social media, online, etc. And we're a very iterative organization. So, I hope to be on more conversations like this and involved in more and more conversations like this, because for me, I think I care less for the talking. I love to hear and take in all these ideas. And thank you very much to everyone else and the other panelists for sat here, and Toby for chairing, and Nick for the tech stuff. We did get it in the end, and for the other audience for their contribution.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bashir. Thank you very much.
One thing, guys, this is just fantastic, well done. I mean, what a long way we've done from just a few years ago. Look at this panel, look at, the trust is fantastic. Makes me so happy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite a journey so far. We look forward to going further. It's been quite a journey just this year, to the point that we're sitting here in a virtual library with one another, having this incredible conversation. I'm kind of blown away. I think I'll probably be even more blown away when I watch these these events back and realize really what we're achieving here. I just really look forward to more of these conversations. It's amazing to have connected with you, Didi, with you, Rasha, and with you, Bashir. this evening. I look forward to more. We've got some fantastic more events coming up this week. We've got our environment, and we've got our health and well-being, and of course on Saturday we've got the young ones, our future, all about the young people and children. Join us for our spaces this week. Take care, everyone. Look forward to seeing you on the 23rd. Bless. Thank you very much, everyone.
So we are inviting you today to join us in celebrating the power of our community to organise.
And now that the council has made a commitment that the library will remain a public asset and a library, this is a living testimony to the truth that collectively we can and do make a huge difference.
Come and join the Friends of North Kensington Library to celebrate a new phase in this historic building's life.
As one of the first public-built libraries, this library has always represented the energy and commitment of communities, organising to secure their future through self-education.
However, in recent years, the commitment of councils to this principle has been weakened by successive governments.
We all know it took the awful events of Grenfell Tower to put an end to plans that would have handed our library over to private interests.
But our diverse community here in North Kensington has a long and proud history
of standing up and resisting the onslaught of developers.
When us friends of the library got together, the whole case looked absolutely hopeless.
And it continued to look hopeless for much of the campaign.
Still, we persisted.
Through the most difficult moments, when losing the library to private interests seemed like a fait accompli, the Friends of North Kensington Library came together.
We were endlessly supported by the many community groups and organisations that make up the network of self-supporting and community-led groups that have been so important to securing the future of public space in this area.
Even when they are in ways we cannot predict, could not hope for, or aren't able to perceive.